Hello, and thank you so much for joining us for Pumps in Politics. My name is Harriet Wallace. This week, we've got a lot of talking to get to, from Donna Brazil's controversial new book to right here in the mid-state where guns will be allowed in the new legislature buildings. But first, before we get to all of that, let me introduce you to the ladies who will be joining me for today's discussion. On the desk, first we have Lainey Brown. She is a mother, a community and campaign organizer, and she's no stranger to Pumps in Politics. We also have Melissa Smithson, who is not a stranger to politics. She has run her own campaign. She's also vested in the community and is well known as a political organizer. Let me also introduce to you, we do have Holly McCall. She's run her own campaign. She too is a community and campaign organizer. So we've got a pretty deep roster there. Let's dive now right into our hot topics for today. We've got bombshell allegations from the Democratic Party giving President Trump new ammunition for his attacks. In excerpts of her new book, Donna Brazil alleges that Hillary Clinton's primary campaign sided with the Democratic National Committee, giving her control over who the party hired and how they spent money even before winning the nomination. So we're going to jump right into that. First, let me also say, we know Lainey will not be participating in this because of professional reasons, and we respect that. These two ladies, however, I know they're ready to jump in. So let me first start off by asking, how do you believe these explosive charges will impact the Democratic Party? Because you're talking about someone buying a bid, basically.
So, as the Democrat at the table here, I will say that I'm already starting to see a lot of commentary on social media, groups that I'm involved in, as well as Twitter, from Democrats who are both Hillary people and Bernie Sanders people who are very upset about the allegations. Now, I will also say, shortly before I came to the show tonight, The Hill, which is a fairly conservative publication that reports on Capitol Hill, has released a story saying that, in fact, Hillary Clinton did not sign the agreement until after the primary. So take that for what you will.
Okay, so we're I don't know if it's a mincing of words or who said what. Your thoughts on that, from more so on the Republican side, because you've strategized on that side. What does this look like to you?
Well, it's a lot of what a lot of us suspected as far as Hillary and the unethical practices that were going on there. And it's not fair for even the other candidates with Bernie Sanders. You know, I hope that they can dive down in and find out exactly what has gone on this. I haven't read the Hill thing yet, but I'm interested in seeing that afterwards. And just, you know, if there is collusion, if there was, you know, to get on the bottom of it and correct it and bring those accountable for that, if it is her or some of her staff.
So then at this point now, does the Democratic Party owe Bernie anything at this point? He had a strong following. He had a lot of folks who loved him in his campaign. And he was really kind of saying it from the beginning, it's not right, something in the water is wrong. Is there a payback that's due at this point?
So I'm going to say no. I think what we owe Bernie Sanders and his people at this point are to work to bring them into the party, because they did bring a lot of new energy, a lot of new enthusiasm, and new voters to Democratic politics and to the primaries. At this point, I don't know what relitigating 2016 solves. And this is probably going to upset some people, but Bernie Sanders has run as an independent his whole life. He does caucus with the Democrats, but he still is not a Democrat. I do agree with Melissa that if something skeevy, for lack of a better word, was done, that's not right, and I don't approve of that. He was in the Democratic primary. He should have been treated fairly. At this point, I don't know what you can do to correct that, except to correct your behavior going forward and be decent and welcoming.
And one more quick question before we switch to our next topic. I want to ask you, Melissa, at this point, is there any action that needs to take place? Investigation, any righting a wrong here, or do we leave it alone?
I don't think we leave it alone. I mean, you know, look, as citizens, if we do something in the past, we're investigated thoroughly and stuff for any crimes. I think it needs to be the same as the top.
Well, but it wasn't a crime.
It's unethical. I mean, we would do that in a company, I would say, you know, if something has happened, and then we would pay for that. But, I mean, unfortunately, the American people may have suffered, the Bernie Sanders supporters in that. So,
well, let me switch to something as we talk about unethical, as we talked about what happens next. So in our next topic here, it's been a little more than a week since members from the White Lives Rally Matter descended on the mid-state, holding a white nationalist rally in Shelbyville. We know that's right here in our area. Canceling their second protest in Murfreesboro. We're now learning this is being recorded as the second largest white nationalist rally in a decade. So the question is now, ladies, do we believe that this is gaining more movement, deeper roots? Lainey, go ahead and chime in. We'll toss it to you first because I know you're waiting on this one.
I think people are feeling empowered to come out and be able to express their views. You know, the KKK used to hide behind robes, and now I feel like there's powers that be have emboldened them. So they've taken off the robes and they've staged these rallies to try to garner up more support for their causes. I don't know how this is going to, I think going forward, there's still going to be more because we need to discuss what their fear and what they're angry about. And until we get to that root of it, there's just going to be more fear and more anger.
What do we think the fear and the anger is? What is the concern? Why hold a rally?
You know, I just don't, I'm not sure why. I'm glad it failed. I'm glad it didn't go to Murfreesboro. Shelbyville is where my father lives. So, you know, hate and discrimination there's just no place for it in our nation. And, you know, I'm hoping that, and some of it is media, the mainstream media bringing attention to it. I think if that was not have happened, people would not have showed up. I'm glad that they showed up more on our side as far as the side that is the right side, and that they decided not to do that. So, but I just, sometimes I feel like the media has brought a lot more attention to it. I hope it goes away. I just don't think, I'm not sure what's fueling it. A lot of it is probably from the election this past year. You know, on both sides, I'm not sure, but
Which is one of the things I wanted to ask. We've heard a lot from President Trump. We saw what happened in Charlottesville when he said, "Oh, they're great people here," right?
On both sides.
On both sides, he did. Does that kind of embolden, as Lainey said, or does that give room for this type of protests? And if Black Lives Matter has their protests, why can White Lives Matter not have theirs? And I'm not saying that they can't. There are a lot of people who say that they cannot or should not. Lainey, we're going to get to everybody else. Just wait a minute.
So, you know, that yes, they are protected by First Amendment freedom of speech. However, I don't think that is something that should be accepted. We should not go gently into that good night. I think, and clearly I'm a pretty liberal person, but I think there's a vast difference between Black Lives Matter, who, if you look at the number of police shootings in the last few years and the number of African American, specifically men, but some women too, who've been shot, that seems to me vastly different from a group of white people who are protesting what? I don't know. What are they protesting?
Still the question that is out there. So I want to kick it now over to another topic. This one definitely stirring up a lot of controversy. Okay, look, you're just ready. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about this one. There is another hot topic that is sparking debate right now. It is gun legislation. People with state-issued handgun carry permits will be allowed to be armed within Tennessee's new legislative office complex.
All right, who wants this one first?
I'll start off with this one just a little bit.
Okay.
How does this make sense? And my question is, a lot of angry things happen in the legislature. You know, there's a lot of contentious things that happen. There are a lot of angry feelings, you know, and so what does this, when there's two people that might be arguing a point and somebody just pulls out their gun because they want to silence the other one, and maybe not even shooting that other person, but shooting at the floor just so that they can be powerful, because things happen when you feel like you've got the power of a gun. I don't understand what the purpose of carrying a pistol inside of a state legislature does. How does it help? Who is it helping? Has there been violence in there in the past? What's the reason?
It's their First Amendment right. Like they have their second. They have Second Amendment right. Sorry, I'm still on the protest. They have a right to do it, right? So if we can carry concealed weapons with a permit anywhere else, why not in the legislature?
Well, I would say just because we have the right to do all sorts of things doesn't mean that they're always a good idea. Melissa, what are your thoughts?
You know, and I'm a handgun carry permit. Since the day it was a law, I did it. I was taught responsibly on how to do it. I don't let my emotions get in the way, though a lot of people do. You know, and I think that the state, in doing this, they need to vet those people, making sure that they're lawful carry permit, and you know, and set some guidelines for that, for them coming in. That's me. I'm not an emotional person, everybody, you know, but I have seen some heated debate on there, and I'm hoping that nobody will get to that point where they're going to pull out a gun. I pray for that.
It seems like it's another expense. It's another expense because now it's two levels of security that you have to go through. It's making sure that those people are lawful handgun owners. So it's another expense to walk into a building.
And keep in mind, there will be a metal detector, and they will be checking everyone's permits to make sure they're updated and secure. So hold on, because we do have to go to break. Everyone, that wraps up our Hot Topics, brought to you by Freeman Webb Associates. Still ahead on Pumps and Politics, we're getting up close and personal with Mayor Megan Barry. What makes her tick? What makes her happy? And those big ticket items she's working on to enhance Music City. We'll be right back. Mayor Barry, thank you so much for joining us on this special show. And as I was saying before, you know, we talked to you so many times about different topics.
Sure.
But we really want to talk to the woman behind the mayor today, if that's okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, thank you again so much. So first, a couple of, kind of housekeeping things we got to get out of the way, a few things related to the city.
Yep.
One of the things that we've noticed is before you came into office, there was a lot of talk about diversity.
Yes.
In heading up our different departments and employment in our departments. You seem to make some headway in that area. Your thoughts about that, and how has that process been?
Well, I think government can lead the way on making sure that we were reflective of the workforce that is Nashville. So when I came into my office, specifically the mayor's office, we were very intentional in going out and hiring the most qualified folks, but they also just happened to look like Nashville. So 28% African American and 10% LGBT and 10% Latino and over 50% women. So,
Yeah.
and happy this week, we had a great new hire this week, Monique Odom, who will now be the Parks Director. She is a incredible woman, also incredibly qualified, and happens to be also the first woman of color to hold that position.
Oh, yes, actually, now that I think about it. Well, that's pretty, so you're making history like over and over and over again. Has it hit you yet? All of the landmarks that you've made, or is it still very surreal?
I always think it's just the right thing to do. So for me, it's just about being intentional and making sure that you're giving the opportunities for the most qualified people to put their best foot forward. And then when that happens, you get great people.
Now let's talk education,
Yes.
because that's a very big
Yeah, you
talker.
bet.
Dr. Joseph has come in, and
Yes.
he's like shaking up everything, like really try to do some things out of the box,
Right.
future forward. But yet there's still some who have concerns about our public school system here. Your thoughts on how we can fix it, and if we can fix those issues?
Well, I think there are many issues that collectively as a community we're working on addressing. So in my office, in conjunction with MMPS, we've spent a lot of time on a pre-K roadmap to help figure out what is a high quality pre-K so that our kids are actually entering the public school already on good footing. We announced this week our literacy roadmap, a huge commitment to make sure that the kids who are in third grade are reading on third grade level and doubling that number because we're woefully behind.
Yeah, right. And I want to talk about that just a little bit, because we have several layers that really kind of complicate the fix, right? We're talking
Sure.
about diversity, we're talking about
Yep.
funding, we're talking about access, technology. I just want to talk very quickly about the literacy portion. How did we end up with the focus on the literacy?
Well, we know that if you're not reading on grade level by third grade, that your trajectory, your likelihood to graduate from high school goes way down, your likelihood to graduate and go on to college goes way down, your likelihood to be poor goes way up. So focusing on literacy is critical, and Dr. Joseph gets that. You know, we've been so lucky to have him come in over the last year. We were able to hire him away and put him in a position to make real meaningful change for our kids.
And one of the other things, and of course I want to touch on some of those things out there that's not as much talked about, if you will. We saw a lot of, and I'm changing pace here a little bit. We saw a lot of talk, passion, and controversy around the Northwest YMCA cell. And I know there are some that really feel passionate about keeping it the Northwest YMCA. But then there's some who say it's really not a big deal, it's going over to the city. Any words that you want to share with those in the community that are concerned about the future of the YMCA?
Sure. So, you know, this is a great asset for North Nashville that has been run by the YMCA. And the YMCA came and approached us and said, hey, look, we don't know if we're going to be able to make the financials work for this particular location. And what we said immediately is, well, we don't want to see this close. So what can we be doing to make sure that this great asset stays as part of the community? I think that there was some miscommunication within the community, and we've said, hey, look, we don't want to do anything the community doesn't. We just want to make sure that the community has an asset where they can go and gather. And what we've done is we've taken a step back, and the community and the Y are working out some particular details about. I think that they've asked the community to try to step up and make this place a financially sustainable place. But we're here. We want to make sure that however this goes, that there is a great asset for the North Nashville community out there.
Gotcha. So nothing to worry about.
Well, I wouldn't worry, but I find that people worry about a lot of things that I'm not usually worried about. But I will tell you that I care deeply about making sure that that is an asset that people can enjoy. And I think there were lots of rumors about the city was going to do this. All the city wanted to do was help. And so sometimes I think what you don't want to step in if people don't want you to step in, but we are absolutely still here as they negotiate with the Y, because it is a Y facility. It's not a state. It's not a city facility.
Right. Well, and you mentioned something which made me think about something else. We talk about the concern, the worry, the trust. And that's one of the things we've seen, a theme we've kind of seen develop when we look at, say, the Northwest Y, with those in the African American community wanting
Sure.
to protect it and keep it. And then, and we don't have to go too much into this, but then we also have seen a lot going on with the African American community and the police department. Your worries or concerns about race relations in the city of Nashville,
Sure.
what do we need to do? What can we do?
Well, I always worry about that. I always worry if there is a community in our city that doesn't feel like they have a voice, like they are being represented, or that they are somehow negatively impacted by city services. And so that does concern me always. Nashville has always had a history of a nonviolent protest movement here, which I think is a great base for us. But our history is that, but our future is continuing to make sure that we are integration centric. And that means making sure that we are providing housing and transportation and education opportunities and access and mobility. If you're a community that has not had that trust in government, it's not a surprise to me that that trust comes back overnight. It's a building block. And I think that what my administration is trying to do is to show the different parts of Nashville, including North Nashville, that they're a valued asset in our community by investing in them. This year, we, as part of the budget, are running the free Music City transit line. Now it used to stop at the Farmers Market. Now it goes all the way down Jefferson Street, terminates at TSU, and that's a corridor now that people can go to, that they can invest in, they can be part of, and then they can also come back into the urban core. I mean, I want us to be equitable across our community about where we're putting our dollars and resources, and we've tried to make investments all across our county.
And you also had the citywide talks.
We did, yes,
right?
our real
Which-
dialogues.
The real dialogues, and we talked about equity
Yes.
across the board. How did that go? How do you feel in terms of the feedback that you got? I mean, because people were talking pretty candidly.
Well, we got, so if you go to my website, you can see all the collection of that data. There were 694 recommendations, and you can see how we are moving
Wow.
on every single one of those, and what the progress that we've made. And it includes education, it includes policing, it includes jobs, all of the stuff that were kind of topics of conversation during those 1,000 people coming together to have those conversations. And so, the work, we go on with work. You have these big community conversations, but then the rubber hits the road when you're actually moving on these different issues.
So one more, as we transition more
Sure.
into Megan instead of the mayor.
Sure.
You are a tough cookie
well,
because
thanks.
for a number of reasons, right? One of those, because you have no problem standing up to the president, right? You're like, we in Nashville are a welcoming city
We are.
and will remain that way.
Yes.
Have you caught any backlash, or how has that been for you when you've said, I hear you, President Trump, and I respect you, but in my city?
Well, I think that is the key. I mean, this is Nashville, and the people who put me into office expect this place to be a warm and welcoming place, a place that builds bridges, not a place that builds walls. And if you think about what we're doing here in Nashville, I think we're a model. The fact that we have a 12% increase since 2000 of our new American community, I think is a wonderful thing. That fabric makes Nashville better. I was at an awards ceremony this week where we were recognizing outstanding public high school graduates. And there was
nice.
one young woman who was from Laos, and she was a doctor, a cancer doctor at Vanderbilt. And her comments were really telling. She stood up and she said, you know, I'm here because immigration works. I'm here because science is real. And I think those are the messages that we think about, and we want Nashville to be that progressive place.
Gotcha. All right, let's move into Megan now.
Sure.
Walk us through, and I'm sure you've gotten this question before, but walk us through a typical day for you, which sounds like it
gosh.
includes hot yoga.
Yeah, if I hope so. Well, let's see. The other day, 2 days ago, Thursday, started my day at 5:30. Made it to a hot yoga class at 6, which is a great way for me to start my day. Which means I'm, at the office and ready to go by about 7:30. We had a couple of groundbreakings this week, which were critical, bringing jobs out to Antioch. We announced CHS, they actually opened their building. They've got 800 jobs out there. We did a groundbreaking for LKQ this week. They're going to bring 450 jobs out to South Nashville. Antioch is becoming this amazing place, and we announced IKEA recently.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of conversations about our economic and community development that we work on. But then I spend a lot of time in the office working on transit, working on the things that matter to Nashvillians, affordable housing. But a typical day can start at 5:30, and that typical day happened to end about 10.
10 p.m.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh my goodness. What has been the biggest adjustment for you since becoming mayor in your personal life?
Sure. So, I have a husband, and Bruce is not, he's interested in politics, but he has his own job, his own career, his own
We
thing.
need that balance, so that's good.
Absolutely. So, I think the adjustment has been, how do you find that balance of being able to see each other and also be respectful of what each one is doing and supportive.
Are you able to find alone time or quiet time ever?
I find that in yoga. I get that hour on my mat, and that is when I get to be peaceful and that connectivity.
So they know, look, my phone is in the locker.
Nobody's
Do
talking
not,
to me.
unless something major
Absolutely.
happens.
They always know how to find me. But it's that kind of moment of peace when I can have that during the week.
What is the one thing, when you look back at the time since you went into office, what has been your biggest regret? What has been your biggest triumph?
Well, I think that when I think about triumph, I think about let's wait till I'm finished being in office, and then let's look back and celebrate.
Well, but you got to look at the successes along the way,
I
right?
think
Because
we've
that
made-
helps.
Well, I think we've made
And you
progress.
have many, sounds like.
I think we've made progress. We've made significant progress on moving the needle on affordable housing. We put the most money into affordable housing that any administration has, $50 million. Plus, we've added all these different tools to the toolbox, and I mean, so we're moving on that. But I'd love us to move faster, and it's complicated. Transportation. When we pass that referendum in May, I'll see that as a triumph because that is a game changer for Nashville.
Yeah. You are truly a public figure. How do you deal with criticism? Because, I mean, it comes with the job. How do you deal with that? Do you turn off Twitter? Do you just, pray about it? Like, what do you do?
Sure.
How do you respond?
You have to have pretty thick skin
Yeah.
when you run for office. And sometimes I read the Twitter, sometimes I read the Facebook, sometimes I don't. It doesn't mean it doesn't get under my skin sometimes when I see, I think my favorite one is go back to California. And I think, I was born in California because my dad was a Marine, and that's where we were stationed. It's
Right.
like, really? Anyway, those are the kinds of things I just want to go, but there's no point in taking that on. And I find a lot of comfort in my faith. I do believe in a higher power, and I do believe that God puts you in places that you maybe never thought you would be in to make meaningful change. And that kind of gets to the tragedy that is in my life at the moment, where I lost my son about 2.5 months ago, and something I never thought I would experience, but that has given me this incredible empathy with people who are grieving that I never would have known. And so it's not a pain I want anybody to ever have, but now that I have it, it helps me talk to other people.
Gotcha. All right, I've got room for one more.
Sure, Harriet.
If there is anything that anyone could say, if they could fill in the blank, anyone on your team, they could fill in the blank and say, I love it when Mayor Berry does blank. What would they say?
So I'm going to say it for them, but I'm not sure they'd say that. I love it when Mayor Berry sets up audacious, bold goals and then says, we're going to make this happen.
Okay.
Because oftentimes my team's like, oh my gosh, really? This summer, 10,000 jobs, putting 10,000 kids to work.
Yes.
They were like, let's start a little slower. I'm like, no, we need 10,000 jobs right now. And we had over 11,800 jobs come through that portal with 8,500 kids connecting. And that was huge. And we did it because my team made it happen.
And last one. If they were to say, this may be the same answer though.
Okay.
If they were to say, I love it, I hate it when Mayor Berry does fill in the blank. What would
Sets
that
out
be?
these big, audacious, bold goals that we have to hit. I think it's the but I have the best team I think that any administration has ever had, and every day they get up, they work so hard for Nashville, and they're passionate, caring people who want to move the needle on everything, and I'm so lucky.
Right. Well, Mayor Berry, I thank you
Harriet,
so
thank you.
much
It's
for
such a
always
pleasure.
joining us on Pumps and
Thanks.
Politics and
Thank
giving
you.
us your time. Everyone, thank you so much for coming back to Pumps and Politics. Now we're coming to a very special segment here. I had to put this one in. I love it. We're calling it Trump Talk. What is the latest coming out of the White House? And one of the big items that we've been talking about all week, Corker versus President Trump. Right, Twitter beef. So they've had this back and forth. We're talking about the White House daycare. He could not even be elected for a dog catcher. It's gotten very ugly. And, Corker's not holding back. So we did hear from the White House about the whole Twitter beef. Here's what the White House had to say.
Look, you've got an individual in the president. He's a fighter. We've said it many times before. The people of this country didn't elect somebody to be weak. They elected somebody to be strong. And when he gets hit, he's going to hit back. And I think Senator Corker knows that. And he's, maybe trying to get a headline or two on his way out the door.
Wow, there it is. All right, Tough Talk. Is he trying to get a headline or two out of the door? We know he recently announced that he is going to basically retire there a little bit. So your thoughts on Corker standing up for himself, seemingly is what he said he's doing. Is it appropriate? Is it not appropriate? I'm gonna go to Melissa first. Wait a minute.
Yeah, no.
All right, Melissa, we're going to come to you.
Some days I wish I could put them both in timeout, they're both passionate about it. Trump is really trying to do what the people elected him to do, is to try to do a tax reform and, of course, the health care reform. With Bob Corker, they've had a lot of exchange of words. But you know what, guys, just get to work. Let's make this good for the American people where it's not costing so much money. People are not being, axed out of the system. We need to reform this, and we need to act like adults and get to work and hopefully come out with a better policy. Repeal and replace, I'm still kind of on the fence about that, but something needs to get done. So let's get to work, quit the bickering.
Let's stay focused is what you're saying.
Stay focused, yes.
Holly, is this the way that you handle someone when you feel like you're being attacked or you're being bullied? Is this, we're grown, we're professionals, we're leaders of the free world, right? Is this the way you handle it?
One would hope not. One would hope not, but we have a president who clearly handles quite a bit of his business on Twitter. And so at some point, I feel like Senator Corker is fighting fire with fire. Now, I feel sorry for Senator Corker these days because Democrats still don't like him. He's addressed some of these issues and come out against President Trump, but he still hasn't voted any differently from President Trump. So Democrats still don't like him, and a lot of Republicans don't like him because if you like President Trump, you're not going to like Bob Corker attacking him. So I think he's, damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
So is the president right that he couldn't even get reelected as dog catcher? Is he
Right?
right?
I think he would probably still get, if he were still in the Senate race, I think he would probably win.
Okay.
And part of that is, y'all know, it is very hard to beat an incumbent. And he was coming in with a war chest. And I know there was already another Republican in the race. I think it's Andy Ogles. But I still think that Corker would probably get reelected.
So, Melissa, is this the early signs of the implosion? Are we seeing the Republican Party fall from the inside out? Because we're seeing McCain, we're seeing Corker, we're seeing a lot of people speak out against a lot of the things that the president is doing right now. We even saw them boycotting his inauguration. So we kind of start on the early end. Are we seeing the beginning of the end? What are your thoughts?
There's definitely a lot of change going on in the Republican Party, and we're seeing that in a lot of different states, with Georgia and Alabama and some recent elections. You know, it could be. It's definitely a change. People are wanting to be well represented, and a lot of people do not think that Corker has represented them well, and Andy Ogle, and I believe Congressman Marsha Blackburn has come out now against it. So a lot of people are wanting change. I know there will be a lot of change. Is that for the good or the bad? Not sure. But I think in both parties, we're seeing a lot of that swelling, that ground swelling. Whether it implodes or not is yet to be seen.
Let's jump into that very quickly here. Just a few minutes left in this segment. Is it time for a makeover? We've seen the accusations coming out from Donna Brazile about what's happening inside the Democratic Party. We're seeing that changeover in the leadership. We're seeing some new emergence. We're seeing what's happening in the Republican Party. Is it time for a makeover in both camps? Is that happening?
Look, man, the Democratic Party needs help, frankly, and I've been around Democratic politics in some form or another for 30 years, and I tell people, I'm chair of the 7th Congressional District for the Tennessee Democratic Party, and I go out and speak to county parties, and they say, when is the DNC going to give us a message? And my response to them is, if you think the DNC is going to ride to your rescue, you better forget about it.
Good luck.
We got to fix ourselves. So, yeah, there are some definite issues.
All right, thank you so much, ladies. That wraps up our Trump Talk segment. I love these ladies. I really do. All right, so be sure to come back here in just a little bit. We have much more to talk about still ahead here on Pumps and Politics. Who Papa John's is blaming for slumping sales, plus the new warning that could affect how you fly this holiday season. We'll be right back. Hey there, everybody. Looks familiar, doesn't it? It's the return of Pumps and Politics. I'm so excited. You all have been waiting on it. You know I've been waiting on it as well. We used to come to you on radio, but now we're coming to you on online television, and I'm so excited. Pumps and Politics, as you know, is the place where Nashville has its voice, can be heard, and we discuss the issues that matter to you and impact the way that you and your family live every day. We're gearing up. We're getting ready. We've got an amazing show in store for you. So we hope that you will begin joining us every Monday morning at 10 a.m. starting November 6th on pumpsandpolitics.com. Hey there, everybody. Time now for a Pumps and Politics tradition. It's time for Round Robin. I love this segment. This is where we put all of those quirky headlines that we still need to cram in and talk about them. So this is how it's going to work. I'll toss a topic out to our ladies here, who will then give me their first thought. It's supposed to be quick. We'll see how that goes. Lainey never gets it right, so hopefully we can. All right, so here we go. Are we ready? Let's start with the unthinkable. Twitter in chief disappeared from Twitter for 11 minutes. President Trump's verified account went offline after a company employee deactivated the account on their last day on the job. I'm going to start down here with Holly. Very, very quickly, your first thoughts about that.
Glorious.
Lainey, your turn. Can you do one word or less?
11 minutes of blissful peace.
Melissa.
I'm just concerned with security of our Twitter accounts.
Whoa, that was great. We made it. All right. To our second topic. Right now, Papa John's is blaming the NFL national anthem protest for slumping sales. The pizza chain is the official sponsor of the NFL and says the league is failing to handle the ongoing protests. Papa John's CEO says the company is disappointed and says the situation should be resolved already. So, ladies, Papa John's says the protest is the blame. Let me start on this. Hold on. Let me start on this end. Melissa, true or false? Is the NFL protest the blame?
Yes.
Okay. Lainey.
Awful pizza, awful toppings, slumping sales.
Thank goodness they're not a sponsor. All right, Holly.
Terrible pizza. They need to quit worrying about the NFL and put some better cheese on that.
Better cheese.
The box tastes better.
I'm a
That's
Slim and
true.
Huskies girl, by the way.
Now I'm
Shout
with
out for
but
that
I'm
one.
with y'all.
It's like
not
cardboard.
my favorite pizza, so.
Golly, maybe. Okay, all right. Sorry, Papa John's. All right, to our next one. If you're taking a trip ahead of the holidays, there's a new travel warning out. The NAACP says African American customers should not fly with American Airlines because they may face racial discrimination. Is this fair or not? Should one organization have the power to tell people to not use a product, such as American Airlines? Lainey, I'll start with you this time.
If there are overwhelming circumstances, then absolutely.
Whoa, this is great. Wait till I tell Janine, this is awesome. Okay, Holly, let's talk
Yeah, the NAACP's got the right to tell their members not to fly. Now, people don't have to pay attention to them. They can fly or not, but they absolutely have the right. And if they feel like something is being done unfairly, they have a duty to tell their people that.
Okay, Melissa.
And I would agree. I would agree, especially if there's any wrongdoing in any group. If there's discrimination or anything and they feel, I think there needs to be a voice out there about it and support it. I mean, I'm agree with these ladies on that. So.
All right. This next topic, no, it's not that. It was one after that. I've got one just for you.
Oh,
I've got it. I put it in
no.
just for you. All right, so let's start with this one. The Pope is now pressing the Catholic Church to consider allowing married men to act as priests. The controversial move would address the critical shortage of men joining the priesthood, but is likely to drive divisions through the church by engaging conservative fractions. All right, ladies, who wants to take this up first? Should married men be allowed to be priests in the Catholic Church?
I'll take it up. The Episcopalian priests have been able to get married for years and years and years. It has not affected their priestly duties. People aren't becoming priests, so you got to sweeten the pot. And what's sweeter than a pot than a woman?
I agree. I'm a wife, so yes, we make everything better. All right, who wants to take it next?
Look, celibacy is not a natural state for mankind. Let's just call it out. And if people cannot take care of their business legally in a married relationship, they're going to find other avenues. Let them get married.
I love you, Holly. All right, Melissa.
Hey, that they used to be married, and then back in the early centuries, they put a discipline on it. And, and actually the ones that were married, they drove the wives and children to slavery. So I'm just like, we're in a different time now. Family is a sanctity, it's a thing that we worship and we procreate.
Adjust with the times.
Yes, adjust with the times.
All right, so here we go. Now this one, I just for you. You don't even have to pay me back for this one. All right, Nashville's Metro Council is preparing for a major change. It's voting on $1 million Major League Soccer stadium. So I'm going to put this out there to everyone. I'm going to give it to you last.
Okay.
Should the Metro Council approve the MLS stadium deal? And is it a fair shot for the taxpayers?
All right, well, I'll go first. I live in Williamson County, but I worked in Nashville for years and have been paying attention to this. I think the concern that I'm seeing from most people in Nashville is about this 10 acres that would go to the developers. So even if the soccer team fails, they still make money off the 10 acres. I think that 10 acres is going to have to come out for it to pass.
Lainey.
I think a soccer stadium here would be great. I don't think the place where they're trying to put it would be.
Okay, Melissa, you've got the floor.
Yeah, I am in deep on that, and I don't believe in giving the developers 10 acres of that property. That property is the fairgrounds. It's for the purpose of having a state fair. That's when it was donated. And giving the 10 acres to the developers, that's money in their pockets. Even though there's a percentage of that they're promising to the Fair Board, that property was given to the state and ultimately to Metro to raise revenue to have a state fair every year. Now, I know a lot of people think the fair has not been very good these last few years. The Fair Board has the power to do that. I am not opposed to soccer. I'm not opposed to soccer being on the Major League Soccer field being on that, but it's going to cannibalize the existing uses. And 7 years ago, the people voted to keep those existing uses as is and to improve them.
So what you're saying is we need another special segment to discuss this. Is that what you're saying?
I can talk about that all day long.
Bipartisan agreement.
That's right.
Put the parties together. I love it. Well, look, we want you all to take part in the conversation and let us know your thoughts about the topics we discussed, especially here at the Major League Soccer Stadium. You can get in touch with us 2 ways. Tweet us at @pumps_politics or leave comments on our Facebook page, Pumps and Politics, and we'll check back with you. You can also email us at info@pumpsandpolitics.com. Now, we want to do a very special thank you to our partner here and sponsor, Freeman Webb Associates, and we also want to thank you for joining us for the return of Pumps and Politics. Much more to come. We want to hear from you, and we want to talk with you. Thanks so much for joining us.